Great to have you with us. Christopher Russo, I want to start with you, though. Was Malone right to criticize his team publicly?
Well, why not? You know, he's allowed. He's been here long enough. He was upset before the series even began because I think he's doing a little coach speak here. They were heavy favorites. They beat the Lakers. They beat Phoenix. They were huge favorites against Miami. I think that scared. They had a long layoff.
Yep.
I think that scared him. So he's trying to get everybody's attention. Hey, listen, we're not that much better. This team's very good. They just beat Milwaukee, Boston, and the Knicks. They won games on the road. So I think he was trying to send a message. He even tried to send it after game one. I'll let CJ talk. He's the player. I'll let him handle that more than me. But, you know, he said, well, we didn't play that well in game one. Well, they only scored Miami 98 points. I mean, they won the game comfortably. I'm not sure how you can say, well, they had open threes and just missed. Hey, bottom line is these teams shoot threes all the time. Some go in, some don't. When they don't go in, you don't win the game. And I think the other night they didn't play. I think they were a little confident. They had 2 days off. They won the game. You know, only 3 away from a championship, 7 straight. So I do think it was a little wake-up call for them the other night. They fell behind early. But I think a lot of this, CJ, you the guy who can answer this better than me, is a little coach speak to make sure we don't get a little too big for our britches against a team that we're favored to beat.
Does it bother you when a coach calls out his players publicly like that?
No, it doesn't bother me. And in this case, I think you touched on a few things. You talked about the fact that he's been in the league a long time. He knows what championship basketball looks like. And he said he asked his team a question. Why did we lose? And they said, we didn't play hard enough. We didn't get to loose balls. I've never seen so many wide-open three-point shots in a game that mattered in my life. We talked about it earlier today. It looked like it was an October-November game in terms of the effort on closeouts, and that can't happen in a finals game. And I think he understands what's at stake here. He's playing against Spo. They're in Miami. They got the Miami Knights to battle. They got the Miami team to battle. And this team is very hungry. They're doing this without Tyler Hero, right? A guy who averages 20 points per game, shoots 40% from three. And I think he understands the sense of urgency that needs to be in play here. They had some lack of energy throughout the year. They had a couple games where he had to call out his team publicly due to embarrassing losses for a team who's #1 in the West. So I think he understands what's at stake. And I like that he called them out because there's no must-wins in the playoffs, right? Every game is important. But this is a game where they lost at home, up 15, a game where Jimmy didn't play his best basketball. So they have to take care of business because Miami has already proven that we can go into your house and beat you when we don't even play our best.
100%. Stevie?
Well, you can like it or dislike it, but here's the reality is it was necessary. He had to do what he had to do because guess what? Their problems in terms of giving up these shots didn't just occur in game 2. It occurred in game 1. The Heat shot 33% from three-point range in that game, 13-39. But they counted at least 16 wide-open three-point shots that Denver allowed Miami to take. They just didn't bury them. And so when you look at Denver's defense, remember, they've had lapses in the postseason. Remember that 2-game stretch, games 3 and 4 against Phoenix, when Devin Booker went ballistic and was shooting like 80% from the field, for crying out loud, and better than 55% from three-point range. In the 2-game stretch, he was absolutely sensational. And Mike Malone talked about we left our defense somewhere in the desert. I don't know where the hell it is. What happened to it? And they had to relocate it for games 5 and 6 to close out that series. The point that I'm making is that Denver has had defensive lapses. We have to take that into account. We didn't see that necessarily against L.A. Why? And this is where we're going to pay attention to it, CJ, and this is why I brought up the word arrogance. Arrogance is not always the worst word in the world. It's not always negative, but it's still apropos in certain situations. If you are the Denver Nuggets, you walked around, just imagine this, guys. You're in that bubble 3 years ago or so, and you are in the conference finals with Jamal Murray and Jokic doing their thing. Jamal Murray ends up following that up by getting hurt the following season. He's out the next 2 years, essentially, in the postseason when Denver goes to the playoffs, but really doesn't get very far without him. They come back this year, they're calling him Bubble Murray. He's got a problem with that because people were implying that that's when he showed up in the bubble, when we know this brother's game is pure and he shows up far more significantly or frequently than just the bubble. So he's got a chip on his shoulder. They got a chip on their collective shoulders because people are talking about talking about Phoenix, talking about L.A., talking about the Clippers, talking about Dallas, who was in the conference finals last year, talking about everybody but Denver. And they were like, you must have forgot who the hell we are. So then you're going up against the Los Angeles Lakers in the conference finals. That is LeBron. That is Anthony Davis. That is Tinseltown. The spotlight of the world is on them. Everybody wants the Lakers to win because they want LeBron James in the finals. They want the Lakers franchise in the finals. It's great for TV. It's great for ratings. It's great for interest. You know, we understand all of that. Denver had a chip on its shoulder over that and handled their business, sweeping the Los Angeles Lakers 4 straight. It is not beyond the realm of comprehension that when they won that series 4 straight, it was like, okay, we're going to win the championship. We're better than Miami. We're the prohibitive favorites. We got a 9-day rest. We'll come out. We'll send a message to them, handle our business. And when they did that in game 1, that they might have took their foot off the gas. And as a result of that, because you're thinking you don't have much to be worried about, you might have taken your foot off the gas, might not have put forth the due diligence that you normally do in being the #1 seed in the Western Conference, which is why Coach Malone felt compelled to call them out, to remind them, you still got 3 victories to go. You got to handle your business. You got to finish the job. And I think that's why he did that. I think that's why that happened. And I think it was appropriate that he did it because they needed to hear that from him.
I agree 100%. I would be a little alarmed tonight if they don't play better defense. As CJ said, too many wide open threes for Miami in game 2. I'd expect Denver to be much more focused on the defensive end tonight. But listen, let's be fair to Denver, too. They had won 7 straight games. They hadn't lost in the postseason. They had not lost a game at home since March. I mean, there was a little law of averages play involved here. Yeah. And remember, Murray could have made that 3 at 111-108. And if Murray makes that 3 to tie the game, Denver's going to win in overtime. You know, Denver's going to win that game in overtime if that game gets tied. So you got to be a little careful of reading too much into this. They were due to lose a game. Miami's a tough team. He's a great coach. They beat Milwaukee. They beat the Celtics. They won a Game 7 in Boston.
The NBA Finals kicked off with a dominant Nuggets win in Game 1. Nikola Jokic led the way with 27 points, 10 rebounds, 14 assists, becoming just the 2nd player with a triple-double in an NBA Finals debut. Jokic scored 41 points in Game 2, but only dished out 4 assists. His fewest this postseason. Denver has lost 9 straight games when he records fewer than 5 assists. The Joker has scored 68 points in the first 2 games of this series. That's tied for 3rd most through a player's first 2 career finals games with Kevin Durant. 4 players have scored 100-plus points in their first 3 finals games. Real recognize real. Here's future Hall of Famer Damian Lillard on the Joker, recognizing greatness.
When I really think about it, he's probably the best player in the league. I mean, obviously there's more gifted players and more probably talented dudes out there, but like he's probably the best basketball player in the league. He shoot threes, he score on the block, he bring the ball up, he make plays, he's smart, he go to the line, he's in shape, he plays with good pace, he rebounds, like he gets triple-double after triple-double without forcing the triple-double.
All right, Essay, does Jokic need 10 or more assists for the Nuggets to win?
Well, for me, he does. But I want to veer left, and I want to say this about Damian Lillard. I get to a point where I'm so sad when I see him at times. I think that he is one of the great, great players this game has ever seen. I love him to death. I think he's a phenomenal player, even better person than me anyway. CJ knows him a lot better. That was his teammate for years. I just want him out of Portland so bad. Yep. I cannot. It's the one
Stephen
thing
we're going to get into that later. Don't forget.
We'll get into all of that. We'll get into all of that. I just wanted to say that for now.
Yeah.
Having said all of that, I think that you need 10. I think that if you're Jokic, you got to do 10 assists or more. Here's the reason why. When he scores a lot of points, what happens is that you tend to see a bunch of guys around him spectating. You know, Michael Porter was an example of that in Game 2 where he just wasn't what he needed to be. He certainly wasn't offensively aggressive. He wasn't a factor. And that comes back to haunt you because at some point in time, as great as Jokic is, you know, as the game wanes, if he's the one that's been taking most of the shots, then the likelihood of others making shots when it really, really counts down the stretch is going to be diminished drastically. And so because of that, I think it's important for him, while he's doing his thing offensively in terms of point production, to also not negate the importance of getting others involved and getting their rhythm flowing and what have you, because you're going to need them as the game wanes. It's not an accident that they're 0-3 in the postseason when he scored 40 or more, but they're 13-1 when he hasn't. That's not an accident. That's a telltale sign of who they are and how they operate when he's getting them involved as opposed to when he's on fire and doing most of the offensive production himself.
Yeah, listen, I understand. I'd rather have him throw the ball around. He did in the first game with Gordon, who got a lot of baskets. But he went nuts in the third quarter the other night, and he had a huge lead. He scored 18 points in the quarter. He was phenomenal. He didn't pass the ball at all, and he had an 8-point lead start of the fourth quarter. I think the key tonight is Murray. I think Murray's got to play a lot better. You know, he made a couple of threes at the end of the game the other day in the second when they made that little comeback there in the last 4 minutes. But overall, he was not that wingman that he has to be. I'll let CJ analyze this better than I can as a basketball player, but and as an all-star. But I will say this. Do the math. They need to get 65 to 70 points out of the two of them every game. Gordon's not a great offensive player. Porter, threes can go up and down. You know, I mean, obviously Pope, you know, he's not a great offensive player. They need somewhere in that 65 to 70 point range between the two of them. Now, Jokic had 41 and Murray had 17. That's 58. They got to get 10 more points. They had 60-something in the first game. They got to get some more points. So I think Murray has to be a major factor in this game. He made 2 threes of note. That's it in game 2. Got to get 30 points out of him tonight. And if you get that, Jokic will do what he does, and I think they're going to win game 3. More points, Murray.
The 10 assist number is what it is. I think Miami Heat did a great job. We're not giving them enough credit for Spo making adjustments, putting Bam on Joker, running more zone, putting Jimmy on Jamal to make it more difficult. Jamal needs to be more aggressive, and I think he will be more aggressive, understanding that this game 3 could be pivotal for the series in terms of swinging momentum and that they have to steal one on the road. But I think for Joker scored because he had to. He's seen the game was slipping out of control. They had blown a 15-point lead, so he went and got 18 points in the third quarter, and they were up 8. The problem has been fourth quarters and finishing games. Miami has not struggled. They've been great in close games and finishing games down the stretch. Obviously, you can trust Jimmy Butler. You can trust Spo to make adjustments. You can trust the role players. For Denver, if it's not Joker and it's not Murray, we don't know who we're going to get production from. Bruce Brown has been great. KCP has hit some timely shots in previous series and is a champion, knows how to play. But I think Jamal has to be more aggressive. The assists are going to come and go. It's about the type of shots Joker creates for others. With that zone defense, it's been more difficult for them to penetrate and pass. But I think even if he gets 6 or 7 assists tonight, I think they win the game because of the sense of urgency and their ability to not give up wide open three-pointers to the Miami.
As you said before, too many open threes.
Speaking of trust, who do you trust more tonight? Is it Jokic or Butler?
I think you can't go against a 2-time MVP. I think Jimmy's going to be great. And Jimmy talked about the fact that he's not a scorer. Jimmy's a basketball player. He just does what the team needs. He had 21, 9, and 8, and everybody's talking about how he didn't play a great game. He controlled the tempo and went and guarded the second-best player and made it so that he didn't get shots until the fourth quarter. But I think for Joker, he understands that they have to get this game. His coach called them out. The team said we didn't play hard enough. So I think for him it's about, first of all, making sure everybody else eats, and then I think he goes and takes care of business down the stretch to get this win.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.